So thank you for having me in your classroom today. And again, we really want to focus on the strategies that you use as a reader. Because when you think about that good book that you've brought with you, right, whether you've started it or it's one you've read before or one you're about to start, you want to think about what can I do to make sense of what's going on? Because a lot of books have a lot of characters. And a lot of characters doing a lot of things that you have to keep track of. And a lot of times teachers will say to you, can you tell me about what you're reading? Right? Or what's going on in your story? And sometimes it's hard to think about the right thing to say because there's so much going on. And so I want to give you a strategy that will help you summarize really quickly those important things that are going on. And it's called the Fab 5 Organizer. And that's what you have glued inside your notebook. Would you take a minute to just read through that and see if you can make sense of what that organizer is showing you? Guys, remember I said my path is going to be there, so you can't sit there. Thank you. So the Fab 5 Organizer is a really neat way, in my opinion, to keep track of what you're reading. And if you want to take notes with me, I encourage you to do that. Our brain remembers things that we write. So even though you already have it glued into your notebook, you might want to use that space right underneath that place we've glued to do what I'm doing. I'm going to make a copy for myself so I really get in the tune of it. If you need something that you forgot, you could certainly go back and get it. That would be perfectly fine. So I'm going to give mine a title first so I remember what this is. It's the Fab 5. And the Fab 5, again, is going to help us remember all of those good things that we read. And it'll be something that we post on your craft board in order to help us remember how do we summarize something that's going on with the characters. So the first thing that we think about in the Fab 5 is the who. You have to establish who is that important person I'm going to keep track of. Sometimes with a good book, you have a lot of characters you're keeping track of, and you might have more than one Fab 5. But right now, we're just going to start with one. You're thinking about who is that one main character that I need to keep track of in order to tell about the book. Okay? So when we think about an action for this, we go like this. Who? Do it with me. Who? One more time. Who? And then what's the next step on our organizer? Who, and then just say it out. Who? Oh, take a look at your organizer. Look at your Fab 5. Who wanted? Right, who wants? So who wants? So I'm going to put a little text code here too, because if I could write on the book, I might even just be looking for that smiley face. Who? Who? And then wants. What do they want? Do it with me. Wants. Wants. And sometimes I'd like to use that money sign, right? Who wants, right? Like, I'd like some money, please. Who wants? So the wants is, what are they really looking for? What do they want to do? What's their goal? What's their thing, their quest they're on? So who wants, but, right? Something always gets in the way. Go like this for me. But. Do it again. But. And that's what we might call the problem, right? But they try it, but this gets in the way. Sometimes it's a big problem. Sometimes there are a lot of small problems, okay? So do it with me with the motions. Who wants, but what's next? So could be thought of a solution, but sometimes it's not quite. It's that thing the character tries, and either it works or it doesn't, right? Maybe that character really wants to find a friend. So they try to talk to somebody at lunch, but it might not work. So sometimes there's a back and forth on this. Sometimes you see a lot of this in a story before we get to the end. So we have, do it with me, who wants, but so. Because so they're trying to get over that hump, right? They're trying to say, what's something I can do to get over that problem? And what's that last piece? Then, right? Then or next, right? Here's where you're really looking for what comes next. Are we learning something from this? Does the story continue, right? It really could be any kind of ending that really gives us that lesson learned. It's that aha moment. Okay, so I like to go like this. So. It's kind of like, so, what did we learn? Right? I've read that whole book. I've taken my time, my energy. So, what did I really get from it? What did I learn? So we do the motions with me. Who wants, but so. I did that backwards, didn't I? Let's try that again. Who wants, but so. So I have that backwards. I've done this so many times, you think I'd remember, right? So the so part can be seen in two places, because sometimes this is the solution. So they live happily ever after. Have you read stories like that? usually like the Princess Knight kind of ones. So sometimes that's the ending. So they lived happily ever after. It could also have another layer to it, though. And those are the books that you're probably reading. It's not a happy ever after. Something else also occurs. Okay? So I just want to read a few pages from a book that I brought. And I want to practice using the Fab Five. Now, in most cases, you won't get through the Fab Five in one read to self setting. You might find a few of the steps, and then you might say, well, I still don't know what the problem is, so I can't fill out that part. Sometimes with a picture book, you can fill it out right away. So it's up to you if you'd like to use your switchboard to try and do this with me, or if you're someone who just likes to listen and watch me do it. But if you'd like to do this with me, you could pull out your switchboard and your marker, of course, and flip it to the side that your book isn't on. Okay? And you could try and do it with me. So for me, I would just turn it into a double entry journal, something that you're probably already used to doing, right? So on your switchboard, you could do something like this. If this is my switch... If this is my switchboard, I could just draw a line right down the middle. And for me, I think sketching is quicker. So I know that the first thing I'm looking for is what? The who, right? Who. And then the next thing I'm looking for is what do they want? Right? What do they want? And I'm looking for that problem. And then so what do they do about it? And then what can we learn? So this is where I'll use to document the text side of things, right, like you've been doing. Here's the text. But then also it's important to think about you, about me. What am I thinking about that? Am I agreeing with it? Do I see it some other way? Okay. So the book is Each Kindness. That winter, snow fell on everything, turning the world into a brilliant white. One morning, as we settled into our seats, the classroom door opened, and the principal came in. She had a girl with her, and she said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard her whisper, "Hello." We all stared at her. Her coat was open, and the clothes beneath it looked old and ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken. Now, I think some of you are thinking we have a few things already, don't we? Turn to that elbow partner next to you. Is there anything on our Fab Five that you think we could fill out? Talk to that person next to you. So it'd be whoever, when you put your elbow up in the middle, so these ladies are going to put their elbows up. And look, they're elbow partners, so they're going to talk. Okay? They might even notice, ooh, a group of three. Maybe we could all talk. Okay? But put that elbow up and see right now who is your elbow partner. And look around you and make sure everybody else has an elbow partner too. If they don't, invite them to talk with you. Okay, so talk to that elbow partner. Do you think we have anything in our Fab Five yet that we could fill out? So some of you are thinking like I am, right? So far we think that, we don't know, it's only been a few pages, right? We think that we know the who. We think that the who may be Maya, right? But I'm also hearing another character, right? I think that character might even be the narrator because she's giving her perspective. And we don't know her name yet though, so I'm kind of back and forth. Is the focus on Maya or is the focus on the narrator? Right now I'm going to follow what happens to Maya. Okay? If you agree with me, you could put Maya's name there next to your smiley face. That could be your who. Or maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think it's the narrator, and you could write that next to your who. But we want to have someone to start tracking. Okay? So far, do we know what Maya wants? No. Our teacher, Ms. Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student," but most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me, and that's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled, but I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. What would that look like? Show me. Now think about that. Pretend Maya just sat next to you. Now turn your head and look out at the snow. Talk to your elbow partner. What is that telling Maya?
That you don't really care to be moved.
When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and didn't smile back. Now your gut is probably saying, quite a character, right? Quite a narrator we have on our hands. So now it's really up to you to make a decision. Are you going to follow both of them? You know, if this were you in your journal, would you be making 2 Fab Fives because you want to keep track of what is that narrator, that kind of mean girl who we're seeing right now? We don't know her name, but we know she exists. So we're going to call her our narrator because she's really telling the story, right, from her perspective. Or are you going to keep tracking Maya? If you're one of those deep readers, you're saying, you know what, I might do both because I want to see what's going back and forth. If you're someone who says, you know what, I just want to focus on one character, that's great too because you're showing I'm going to practice the strategy. So now I have to ask myself, looking at my Fab Five, if I'm keeping track of Maya, is my who, what does she want? Yeah, and the character doesn't, our narrator doesn't come out and say that, right? But how do we know it? Just call it out. How do we know it? Keep smiling, right? Yeah, so even though that narrator is being kind of mean, right, and doing the whole looking out, she's still trying. So right now, even though I'm not sure, I have an inference. And that inference is based on my evidence from the text. My inference is Maya wants, and maybe not even a friend, right? Maybe she just wants to be acknowledged, right? There's a difference, right? You can be friendly to someone without being friends, right? You can be polite, say, hey, how you doing? And then just keep going, right? A lot of people are like that, and that's okay. But this girl, this narrator, is doing quite the opposite, isn't she? She's going out of her way to be mean. Let's read one more page and see if we can go any further with our Fab Five. My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. Now right there, that gives me a clue as a reader, right? Now I know for sure perhaps who my main character focus really should be because the narrator says, my best friends, right? Not talking from Maya's point of view, but the narrators, right? My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. At lunchtime, we walked around the schoolyard, our fingers laced together, whispering secrets into each other's ears. Because right now, I may be having a hard time interacting with my Fab Five. But before you go off and try this with your own book, talk to your elbow partner. Do you think we could have another thing on our Fab Five organizer? We have the who, wants. Would you agree or disagree? Do we have the but? Talk to that elbow partner. So I agree with you. Some of you are saying, well, I think we do, right? And hold up your Fab Five because some of you have it filled in, right? Let me see your Fab Five. Hold it up for me. Okay. Now, some of you are saying, well, we know who, Maya wants a friend, but who gets in the way? That narrator, right? But narrator refuses, I'm going to say he refuses to acknowledge her. So I'm curious, because I don't know this piece yet, right? I'm curious, so will Maya keep trying? That's the part that I'm curious about, and that will continue in the second part of the lesson. I'm curious, does she keep trying, or are we going to see something else happen? I think what I'll probably do as a reader, while you're practicing this in your own good book that you've chosen, I think I'll probably go back and reread and also create a Fab Five for our narrator, because she's really shown to be a strong piece in our story. Okay? So what I'd like to see you do, I'd like to see you take that good book that you've chosen that has a character in it, and I'd like you to find a good spot to read and take about 10 or 15 minutes to give this a try. Look at your stamina. Awesome. 13 minutes last time. A lot to be proud of. So I know that for at least 10 minutes, that's something that you could do. Now, do I need to constantly be writing, reading? Nope. Right, just like I did. I really didn't pause to think until I at least read a page or until something really caught my attention. So do the same thing, right? Maybe challenge yourself to read a page or even go back and reread before you decide to even try to interact with your Fab Five. Does that make sense? So it's up to you if you're someone who wants to just try it on your switchboard right now, right? You really want to practice it. Or if you want to go into your journal, into your reader response journal, and go to that next open page and give it a try. Okay, that's your choice. But we'll give you about 30 seconds. Okay, if you want to move, you can move to go find a good spot. If you're going to stay here, that's just fine too, but I'm going to look at the clock. Okay, and you have 30 seconds to find a good spot to read. Okay, you have about 10 seconds to find that good spot. And 5, 4. All right. So looking to build that read to self stamina, now with something to practice with too. So as you read, you're looking to see, can you create part of that Fab 5 for yourself in the book that you're reading?